Shut down the FBI. Shut down the ATF. Shut down the CDC. Shut down the U.S. Department of Education. Fire 75% of the federal bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., and send them home packing because they never should have had that job in the first place. Rescind every unconstitutional federal regulation that Congress never passed. SEC to FTC to FDA to TSA. I call that 1,000 standing around, by the way. God knows what. Shut it down. Do you want to get 3% or shoot for that as a strategy? Or do you actually want to change this country by working together? And I will tell you this, I'm speaking to you as a libertarian at my own core. I have gotten to know Donald Trump over the course of the last several years and the last several months. And you're going to hear from him tomorrow night. And the question is, do you want to influence the next administration or don't you? That is the question for this room to ask. And my thesis for you, you believe it? You all get to speak your mind. I respect that. Libertarians in the room got to speak up. But now the question is, how do you get it done? I believe the future of this country depends on a libertarian nationalist alliance that will save this country. That's what I believe is required. And my challenge to you is, how do we work together to actually restore free speech in this country?
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the Libertarian Convention because RFK spoke and President Trump spoke, and Trump had to unfortunately give some of the libertarians at this convention a reality check, a convention that by some accounts kind of seemed more like the Jerry Springer show.
Veterans receive federally funded medical care.
Not here.
Private
Fascists don't get to kick out
if delays prevent their treatment in VA hospitals, in other words, if they're delayed, they can go out and get a private doctor. He got NATO countries to pay hundreds of billions of dollars. The only president who did so in substantially what we were forced to pay. We got them to
We want Trump! We want Trump! We want Trump!
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? So I want to be clear about the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is not to be antagonistic towards libertarians, because that's the last thing that conservatives should be doing, is being antagonistic towards libertarians. You know, people who, you know, hey, maybe the Libertarian Party may not vote conservative, right? But the people that consider themselves to be, I don't know, conservative libertarians or libertarian conservatives probably are more likely to come out and to vote Trump, right? And actually, I would consider myself to be probably a libertarian conservative in the sense that there are some issues that I definitely lean more libertarian on, like, for example, the legalization of marijuana, which is something that the Biden administration is moving to do. I believe it's a missed opportunity for the Republican Party because it seems as if the Republican base is probably more on board with that than the actual party. And it most likely is because of the popularity of marijuana use among veterans. But me personally, while I think that marijuana culture is cringe, right? And I think that these people that act like marijuana is a harmless drug, I think those people are extremely naive, right? Because I don't think that any drug in and of itself is harmless. In fact, one of the good things about it being legalized is that it can be studied more, that we can learn more about the drug and hopefully educate people on the potential harmful effects of the drug, short-term and long-term. Okay, we'll learn more about it and people can make a responsible choice about whether or not they want to use it. I believe that's how freedom works. But again, while I disagree with some libertarians, okay, I don't believe in the legalization of all drugs, right? I believe that you have to do it based off, okay, how harmful is the drug? Okay, like, what do we know about the drug? What are the negative externalities versus some of the benefits? Okay, and I personally don't see how alcohol should be legal, but marijuana be illegal. Now, again, I could go for the argument as a conservative that both should be illegal, right? But I can't go for the argument that alcohol should be legal, but marijuana be illegal, okay? Now, we know that prohibition of alcohol didn't work when they tried to do it in the early 1900s. And I can say with marijuana, it largely didn't work either, okay? So, I mean, I don't know. I just personally think the libertarians are right on some issues like that. I think the libertarians are more correct on the issues of war. I'm definitely starting to lean a lot more libertarian on the economy as a whole as well, too, especially when you talk about the debt, because it seems that libertarians are the ones that truly want to basically fix the deficit/debt problem. They're serious about that. Conservatives are, they give lip service to it. But hey, at the end of the day, conservatives aren't as small government as libertarians, right? I mean, and that's just the reality of it, because conservatives are not afraid to use the government for the purposes of pushing a social agenda. And again, that is in essence part of being a conservative. And I definitely lean very conservative on social issues when it comes to children. I am very pro law and order because I believe that a society that is going to function, we need to basically fight crime and to make sure that criminals and agents of chaos aren't running our cities and our society. And I'm not saying that, libertarians are necessarily soft on crime, but there is kind of a libertarian wing that, again, is kind of antagonistic towards police. So when it comes to the border, I am, again, very pro closed borders. There's some libertarians that believe in more open borders for economic reasons and things like that. So again, there's differences, right? That's the whole point of what I'm saying. And I understand why libertarians aren't satisfied with Trump, because Trump is not a libertarian, but he's probably the closest thing you're realistically going to get to a libertarian. Definitely much closer than RFK and his progressive sidekick. Okay, so that brings me to this video right here of Trump getting booed at the Libertarian Convention, because again, his record hasn't exactly been satisfactory for libertarians. So I get the booing. I understand the booing. But, Trump walks into the lion's den despite the boos. He gives the libertarians a reality check on their 3%, right? So without further ado, let's get to it.
The Libertarian Party should nominate Trump for President of the United States. Whoa. That's nice. That's nice.
I agree with that. Practically speaking, I agree with what Trump just said.
Only if you want to win. Only if you want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Thank you, D-Roy. Thank you. No, only do that if you want to win. If you want to lose, don't do that. Keep getting your 3% every 4 years. The reasons for doing so, policy and politics, are as solid as the Hope Diamond. D-Roy says this event is very unprecedented, he said. As the Cato Institute president, Peter Gotler, observed in Thursday's Washington Post, it will be the first time think of this, first time in U.S. history that a presidential candidate of a rival party will address the convention of a party that is presumably gathering to nominate its own candidate. Now I think you should nominate me, or at least vote for me, and we should win together.
You gotta love how Trump is willing to go into the lion's den and just stand up and just say, hey, y'all might not like me, but vote for me anyways. Do you think Biden will have the cojones to go in a room full of conservatives, right, or people that disagree with him? He didn't even show up to the libertarian thing, right? So he couldn't even do it with a room full of libertarians. You think Biden will have the cojones to show up and to ask for the vote of these people? Hell no, he would never do this. Now, again, I understand why the libertarians are booing. I don't necessarily agree with them, but I get it. I understand it, right? I respect libertarians, okay? But practically speaking, okay, I think that it's best to just go with Trump, period, right? Again, I know Trump's not a libertarian, but he's the closest thing you're going to get. Because like you said, if you want to win, hey, I'm your guy. But if you want to lose, then, you can nominate somebody else, right? Again, I think that Trump is much closer than RFK, in my opinion.
You heard those words. Nominate me or vote. Vote for me. Because the libertarians want to vote for me, and most of them will. And it's very important. Because we have to get rid of the worst president in history. And together we will. And without it, there's a risk that we could have 4 more years. We won't have a country left. So what is the purpose of the Libertarian Party getting 3% What is the reason to take a chance of having this horrible president destroy our country, which he will do in far less than 4 years? It's not going to take 4 years.
I mean, it's already happened. Okay, so I mean, hey, it ain't. I mean, it's something that's happening right now.
That is why I'm committing to you tonight that I will put a libertarian in my cabinet and also libertarians in senior posts.
Listen, here's the thing. This is the most that, again, true libertarians can hope for, right? Like pure blood libertarians that Trump surrounded himself with some, okay? I think that Vivek at his heart is a libertarian. I think that on some issues he's going conservative because, again, he had to run for president of the United States in the Republican Party. But I think in his heart he's a libertarian. I think there's a certainty that he will get a position. If you look at Project 2025 and their plan to dismantle the deep state, that's the closest thing that a libertarian is going to get to downsizing the federal government. Like, they actually have a legitimate plan to downsize the federal government. It's not just talk, right? Like, they actually have a plan to do it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Trump is somebody that, hey, you can win over if, you present the idea to him, you argue with him and say, this is why you should go in this direction. He's open, right? That's the thing I like about Trump the most, right? He can be influenced, right? If you get the right people in his ear saying the right stuff, he can make the right decision on some things, right? Like, for example, digital currency. I believe Vivek actually convinced Trump to come out against that, right? And again, that's a big libertarian position. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I think that libertarians would be much better off trying to influence the administration rather than to be openly adversarial towards Trump, right?
Pretty good. That's pretty big. Or you can keep going the way you have for the last long decades and get your 3% and meet again, get another 3%. No, you want to make yourself winners. It's time to be winners. You have a lot of common sense. It's time to be a winner. So I'm asking for the liberation. Well, think of it.
Trump is the master. Trump is the master at giving people compliments, but also insulting them at the same time. In the sense that, like, he's saying, well, it's time for you guys to be winners. Basically saying that you've been losers, which, I mean, hey, 3%, right? Not very relevant. Hey, it's time for you to get on board with winning. You guys have a lot of common sense, right? So support me. Again, I think this is impressive. I think Trump going in here, I think he's handling this in the most Trump way possible, right? like, I don't think anybody can handle this better than Trump is handling it right now, right? He seems to care, but also not care at the same time. Yo, this guy is something else.
I'm asking for the Libertarian Party's endorsement, or at least lots of your votes, lots and lots of Libertarian votes, based on my 4-year, very outstanding presidential record. Much of my record is Libertarian.
Yeah. So Trump goes on to talk about his tax cut, which, hey, libertarians, you got to love it. Now, I understand the debt and deficit thing. I get it. But hey, I realistically don't think either party is ever going to do anything about spending because, that's how you lose elections, right? If you're out here talking about cutting back on entitlements, hard to win elections that way. Again, but this is why I'm not a politician, because if I was a politician, I'd tell people the truth, right? And people don't like to vote for the truth, right? They don't actually like to vote for what we should do because it hurts, right? But this is why I respect libertarians in their ability to hold their ground, right? And to stay principled on the things that, they believe are best for the country, despite the unpopularity of it, right? Which is why they're at 3%. But I do think that getting on board with Trump over Biden is the best thing to do, right? I'm just saying that to me is, I think, the closest that you're going to get. Trump promises to have libertarians influence his administration. I think that, you should roll the dice on Trump. That's just my opinion on that. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.